Shalom, all praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shah. I'm going to be talking about not being conformed to this world in this lesson. With, Valentine's Day just passed and things like that. Not just that, but I was also thinking about how I constantly notice that people's mind change due to the world, what is being accepted by the world, what they push out. So that specifically right there, that's people minds being conformed to this world, and I'm gonna read Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. It says, and be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. you know so if you notice in this world, they push out certain agendas. They put it in the TV, they put it in the music, they put it everywhere, and eventually the majority starts to accept whatever they're pushing out. For example, I remember back in high school, the alphabet community, I remember when that started to get pushed out, and along with that was also council culture. So you couldn't really say things without offending people and getting in trouble for it. There was this, there was this vibe pushed out that, okay, you can't offend anybody, or you're gonna suffer consequences. So the world keeps pushing out ungodly things, and people eventually conforms to it. Let's get into that definition of that word. Conform, it says comply with rules, standards, or laws. It says behave accordingly to socially acceptable conventions or standards. And then the third one says be similar in form or type. And then also says to agree with. All right. So the Lord simply says not to agree with the world. He tells us not to love the world, right? Also Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2, it says, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. And that's playing on tables. You don't want to follow after the heathen traditions, right? So that's Valentine's Day and all these other pagan holidays. But people not gonna care, because especially when it comes to the women, a lot of women today, they worship themselves. They want to be pandered. They want to be worshipped. you know Everything is about them. So when it comes to holidays like that, I mean, people not gonna care, because they worship themselves, right? The world is full of pride and arrogance, right? Everybody is all about themselves, right? This verse, 1 John chapter 2 and 15 through 17, says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of Yahweh abideth forever. Right? So yeah, the world is full of pride. It's full of the lust of the eyes. Things that are not of the Lord. So also grab one of the other definitions that's on the blue letter for conform. It says to conform oneself, i.e. one's mind and character, to another's pattern, fashion oneself according to. All right. So right, that's basically being in agreement with the world, and that's what the Lord told us not to do, because the world is not of him. All right. Philippians 3 and 19, who's in, so like I'm starting at 18. For many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you, even weeping, that they are the enemies of the cross of Mashiach, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things. Right, and the part I'm really going into, where it says, whose God is their belly. Right, if you see if you see with the people of the world, all of them have their own. They have their own creation of the Most High. Like they're creating their own God, and what it means for whose God is their belly is it's exactly that. They create their own God because your belly represents your appetites, your mind or your heart, your feelings, your emotions. You know, let's go into that. I want to get the very bottom definition. Says the innermost part of a man, the soul, heart as the seat of thought, feeling, choice. Right, so your belly represents these things. And how do people make their God their belly? They literally create their own idea of who the Lord is, just to give them excuses to do whatever they want to do. They're gonna go to whatever doctrine or so-called God there is that gives them excuses, right? Whichever one is pleasing to them, instead of changing, they're gonna go somewhere that's gonna make them comfortable and accept them for whoever they are right now, even if they know they need to change, right? So you see that with a lot of people today. You know, they just go somewhere where they're accepted instead of just getting some accountability, just changing, just being honest with yourself. Like, oh, you know, I need to change this about myself. No, they just make up their own idea, or they go somewhere that's going to please them. You know, that's why when you talk to people or you hear people today, they always be like, I feel like God this and this and that. I think God this and this and that. And they can never prove it with the Bible. You know, they can't go into his word and actually say stuff. They even judge you off of what they think. And they'll try to hide behind this God that they created, you know, and they'll try to say like, nah, it's the God of the Bible, which is not, you know. It's crazy because the people that'll judge you the most will be the people that's never even read the Bible. You know, they'll just go off things they heard, or they'll go off their own belly, their own thoughts and emotions, and they'll judge you and say, oh no, y'all can't do that, or y'all wrong for this and that. But they never even opened up the Bible and studied it. All right, so it's I want to close out with Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 4. It says, and for context, it's a vision that Ezekiel was having. It says, and the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abomination that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said, in my hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark. It began at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house, right? So I want to go to the part where it says to set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations. So this is the opposite of being conformed with the world. This is the opposite. This is complete opposite, because they're sighing and crying about the wickedness. This is why they got the mark, which the mark is the exemption from judgment, as y'all can see right here. You know, and also in the context, the people that didn't have the mark, the Lord judged, and it wasn't a good judgment. You know, they got deleted. You know, so this is an indication of, are you being conformed to the world? Are you serving the Lord? You know, you signing and crying and complaining about the world is an indication that you serving the Lord. Your mind is with him. You hate the wickedness of the world. If you're not, if you enjoy it and you agree with the world, then you're clearly not serving the Lord, you know, because the scriptures literally say that he hates the world himself, and he commands us not to love the world. All right, so I'm going to close out with that, giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai. Shalom.